Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another trek through Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation novel series. We're on volume 19, chapter 2. And man, things are ramping up again. Ramping up again. I've read chapter 2 and 3. I'm pretty sure that's going to cover an entire Mushoku Monday. I have condensed quite a bit of repeating that Rudeus does. I'm not sure why Refugian likes to do that every now and then. It's like, you literally talked about that the previous chapter. You don't have to talk about that again. It is what it is. But yes, as per usual, thank you guys so much for dropping by for the premiere. Hey chat, hope you guys are doing well. Hope you have a great rest of your Monday after Mushoku Monday. And as per usual, greatly appreciate all the kind words, all those that support the channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, all that stuff. It means a great deal to me. We had Abraham last week with 10 gifted subs. Thank you so much. David with a super, Matthew with a membership, Noah with a great super as well, Kusha with a super, and yes, Somez with a membership. But yes, thank you guys so much. All of that means a great deal to me. It's just fantastic. Thank you so much. But anyways, with all that said, let's just jump right into chapter 2 because I don't think I have anything that I failed to cover last week. So good for once. But yeah, let's jump into it. Chapter 2, Bad Omens. Returning home, Rudeus informed the family that he was leaving for Shiron. He had recently been keeping the details of his business trips to himself, but this one may turn into a lengthy job, so he wanted to make sure that they knew where he was going to be at. Sadly, they had no direct teleports to Shiron, and would have to be traveling from the King Dragon Realm. His last journey from there took 4 months, but he could shave off 2 by not poking around in different cities along the way. So yeah, he's referring to his travel with Edis and Richard. They dropped by every single place to check it out. And yes, technically it was making money and all that kind of stuff. That meant 4 months at least before they got back. Edis was due in 3 months, so he would definitely be missing the birth of his child. There was an option of asking Perugius to bring them there directly to Shiron, which would be quicker, and they were in good terms. Still, even if he reduced travel time to less than a month, there was no guarantee that he'd make it back in time. It was impossible to know how long he'd spend in Shiron before he convinced Zenoba to return. Yeah, I'm getting to a point now where if Rudeus ever announces that, yes, so-and-so got pregnant, I'm going to immediately think that something's going to happen. Because I think there's there's not a single birth that has happened where he's like, oh crap, I got to get home quick. Like, the whole thing with Sylphie, he had to go to Begarit. And even with Roxy, he was constantly being pulled away. There was also the problem of not knowing who their target was, or how fast he can track them down. Their enemy was most likely Pax, and he wasn't allowed to hurt him. All issues that could lead to a drawn-out mission. He explained the details of his mission to everyone present, Norn and Zenith being absent. The only thing he admitted was it possibly being a trap of the man god. He didn't need Edis forcing herself along. While cowardly, it worked, and no one objected to the plan. While Sylphie assured him that they'd be fine, she, along with everyone, turned their gazes to Edis. In response, she folded her arms above her belly in her signature pose before nodding. Got it. Guess that's the way it goes. Come on, Edis. Shouldn't he be a little bit more upset? Why? I don't need Rudeus around to have the baby. Giving birth isn't exactly easy, you know? Yeah, sure. But what's he gonna do to help, other than hold my hand? I mean, a little hand-holding means a lot when you're in labor. Roxy was squeezing her own hands together with a faint smile. It seemed those that had gone through this experience felt his hand played an important role. Yeah, it's just being there. There's an importance of being there. Plus, just being able to squeeze something does technically help with the pain, I would assume. I'm glad I've never experienced it. Don't ever want to experience it. I don't need Rudeus around. Edis said that firmly, pouting somewhat. It made him a bit sad to hear that she didn't think his presence was required. But she had Lilia and Aisha to take care of her. Once again, I don't know how he reads this so wrong. It's obvious that Edis is yeah, there's probably a side of her that's like, I don't need his help. I'm strong enough. I can handle it. But there's also the aspect of, yeah, he's about to go off to do something, and she's not going to say something that's going to go against him. Edis has always been about not being a burden to Rudeus. She's always been that way. I mean, they're all that way, of course, but Edis doesn't want to be a burden. That's the whole reason why she left to get stronger. She doesn't want to be a burden upon him. So in this situation, and she's going to be having a kid, and he needs to go do something, she's not going to be a burden to him once again. When he gets back home, he can thank me for giving him a nice, big, healthy son. That's all I need from him. She was being stoic about the whole thing. She probably was trying to make it easier for him. Now he picks up on it. He was grateful for her consideration, but he was also a little sad. It's the unspoken thing. It doesn't change it, even if it's unspoken. That reminds me, Edis, you already chose a name, didn't you? Yep, it's a really good one too. You've got something to look forward to. She'd only chosen one name though, a boy's name. Would she give it to a girl if she had one while he was gone? Yeah, okay, my predictions on what the child's name would be, I don't know. Usually a lot of the cases it's Rudeus sort of being involved with it, but in this situation he really hasn't been that much involved with naming Edis's child because Yes, she's always focused on a boy's name where he's focused on a girl's name. He's trying to offset the fact that she's just thinking about nothing but a boy's name. So I don't think we ever had a moment where he's actually thinking of a boy's name. So from her perspective, what she would say, like, look forward to it. Reserved, Saros, maybe Paul. I don't think Paul, but Paul would be really nice. Paul would make me probably cry. But I think it'd probably Reserved, which I don't think it'd be Reserved because I think there's like in some cases, I don't know if in Japan they have this, which again, this is wrote by a Japanese person, which I know that he makes that distinction between Japanese and this other world not being really similar. There is a lot of cultures and whatnot where naming somebody after somebody that's still alive is sort of taboo. So I can totally see that not being the case for Reserved because by all signs, he's still alive. So I don't know. I'm kind of wondering if it'll end up being Saros because she loved Saros, like loved him a lot. So I could totally see it being Saros. But other than that, I can't really think of anybody that would be directly in her mind of like immediately that's what I would think of. Again, she's already kind of listed out a whole bunch of like famous people from the past, but I think with that sort of being already covered, I don't think that's what she's going to choose. It would be interesting if she went with Rudeus, named the child Rudeus after him because he's the most important thing to her. So yeah, Saros, maybe Reserved, but maybe Rudeus as well. But again, Rudeus runs into the same problem that Reserved does. So I don't know, I'm leaning towards Saros, which is a pretty cool name. I'm not sure if there's meaning behind it. Hey, if it turns out to be a girl, why don't you name her Hilda? You know, after your mom. No way, I'm not giving a kid an old lady name. Poor Mrs. Grey Rat was probably turning in her grave. Aisha then interjected, okay, everyone, why don't we leave it at that? Edda seems to be okay with this. And like Sylvie always says, she's here to support Rudeus from the behind the scenes. I think we'll be fine. That helped sum things up. So they all nodded. Sylvie was apparently in the habit of telling everyone that she was trying to support him in her own way. It was nice to have such a reliable woman as senior wife in the household. He was still a little bit worried about leaving Edis on her own, but there was plenty of caring, determined people looking after her. Everything would be fine. He would just have to trust them how they trusted him. Edis then spoke up again. Wish I can come along though. You never know what kind of trouble Rudeus will get himself into on his own. Apparently, Edis was worried about Rudeus. That felt a bit backward for him. Then again, it was a risky job, especially since he might be going into Mangon's trap. Maybe she was right to be concerned. Great, now he was feeling a little nervous and afraid that he might not make it back alive. It's like he starts flagging himself. It's like he does it every single mission. I'll start flagging myself. There was no point in dwelling on what might go wrong. He just had to do what was necessary. You seem a bit anxious, Rudy. Roxy spoke quietly, interrupting his thoughts. Looking to her, Lada was nestling in her usual spot on her mother's chest, eyes as sleepy as ever, but fixed steadily on Rudeus. Here it starts. Here it starts. Here's my crazy brain just starts going everywhere at the moment this starts. Well, yeah, there's a chance I might get mixed up in a war this time, so his attempt to deflect her comment backfired as her expression grew more serious. Yeah, I might get in a war. Oh, crap. What am I saying now? But he did technically bring up the fact that they were going to a war. He said that specifically the only thing that he omitted was that it might be the man god's trap. To be honest, I think I bear some blame for the situation myself. What? Why? Because I taught Prince Pax personally in his youth. I'm sure that he had plenty of teachers, though. It's not like you made him into the man that he is all by yourself. That's true, but it was during my time that his personality took a sharp turn for the worse. Yeah, because you became obsessed with her. There is a side of me that kind of wonders if this will end up being the case, because yes, we're going to get into the idea of Roxy going along because she feels like she had something to do with it. So there is a side of me that might think that that could be what it turns into. That yes, her being involved with him sort of made him correct his mistakes. Roxy here is indicating that he was not great, but she seems to believe that the moment that she was around him, he got worse. He took a turn for the worse. So he got worse. And yes, from our perspective so far has been, yeah, it's his obsession with her. So it makes me think that possibly with everything blowing up in his face and him getting sent off, what is the chances that he realizes that because he did all that stuff, he lost his chances of ever getting with her. So maybe this experience has taught him to shape up. So it could be a thing where, yes, she caused his personality to turn for the worse, like she believes, but maybe it's because of that he's able to mature and realize that he's not going to get Roxy unless he shapes up. It was obviously not Roxy's fault. She was a splendid educator, and her lessons couldn't possibly have a bad effect on one's character. Rudy said that with confidence, as one of her former students. Then again, he didn't know much about Pax. From what Orsted told him, he had the potential of becoming an important monarch. Maybe Roxy's methods didn't click for him, and he turned out a bit more foolish than he otherwise might have been. Well, Roxy's really cute. It's hard not to be corrupted by her. And if you think about it, Rudeus technically was corrupted by her in a way. And the idea that because he met Roxy, he started worshiping her. And to a lot of people, you can see that as her messing him up. But it's not like she did it. It was because he came from another life where he was a pervert. And yes, a lot of his worship of her was mainly around the idea that, yeah, she fixed him, saved his life. No, the way he's seen it, a few months of Roxy's lessons transformed a pathetic scumbag into a halfway decent human being. It wasn't possible that Pax turned out the way that he did because of her. There had to be some other explanation. That's a curious thing, because him kind of bringing this up does sort of spark my mind to thinking, okay, is this sort of Rudeus with Refugian sort of tipping the hand to get into, yeah, the possibility of what if way back here the man god was trying to manipulate Pax? Like that whole situation with Roxy coming there and being with Pax, what if that was a goal of the man god? Like he wanted Roxy to get involved with Pax to make Pax mess up and lose Shiron. Because again, it seems like it's the man god's intent to get Pax out of there. So yeah, it makes me kind of wonder if that was all his ploy. Roxy coming there, messing with him. And yes, even possibly the whole situation with him trying to get Roxy to come back by kidnapping Lilia and then kidnapping Rudeus. Maybe that was all the man god's doing to try to destroy that. And maybe, yes, he was working with Pax directly at that time and basically told him, because it has indicated before that the man god can have somebody be his apostle, mess with them, and then leave them and then come back later, because that's what happened with Geese. Geese indicated that he's met him before and that he caused some sort of problem for him in the past. So it could have been, yes, the man god was working with Pax there. He told him, hey, there's going to be a guy coming, grab him, and then you'll be able to get your Roxy. And then he did it for that sake. I think at the time when that whole thing was happening, or at least when they revealed that he was against him, my thought there was that he was trying to keep Rudeus occupied over here to allow him to run into Orsted at that pass. And he wouldn't be able to run into him there if he didn't spend some time in Shiron. That obviously wasn't your fault, Miss Roxy. You know, Rudy, I wish you wouldn't leer at me like that every time you call me Miss. Leering? He was only referring to her as Miss as a token of undying respect for her as an educator. Sure, they role-played as student-teacher in the bedroom not too long ago, but that was purely to add a bit of spice to the proceedings. It wasn't like he had a fetish or anything. You have a lot of fetishes, dude. It's like I try these things, but it's not like I'm like obsessed with that. Honestly, I have some regrets about what happened with Pax, but I suppose it might be counterproductive for me to come along. Roxy glanced down at Lara, who was staring sleepily at Rudeus. It was almost like she had something to say. He could tell that Roxy was feeling a bit conflicted. If it wasn't for their daughter and her job at the university, Roxy would probably come along with him. Seriously, Roxy, I don't think anything you did contributed to this. He was honestly fairly confident of that. It was hard to say whether Roxy tutored Pax in the other timelines Rudeus didn't exist, but it seemed like Pax was more or less destined to seize the throne. Yeah, that's a curious question mark. I would be kind of curious as to if anything that Rudeus being there would have led to Roxy going there. On one end, I can see it being an aspect that, again, like I said earlier, what if Roxy coming there and tutoring Pax has something to do with the fact that the man god was trying to put something in effect to get rid of Rudeus, and thus, yes, in this timeline with the existence of Rudeus, he was putting that all into play to get rid of Rudeus, and thus pulling Roxy into a situation that she normally wouldn't be in any other timeline. Or if any other timeline, yes, at some point she just happens to come across that. Which I think with Orsted's recounting of the previous timelines, I think he sort of mentioned that she sort of played everything out the same in other timelines, but I don't know if they ever mentioned going there to Shiron. I know that they did mention that eventually Roxy will go to Sylphie, and so that doesn't indicate that she is at least in that area. It was hard to say whether or not Roxy tutored Pax in the other timelines. Rudeus didn't exist, but it seemed like Pax was more or less destined to seize the throne. On top of that, there was a good chance that the man god was puppeting him this time. Even if his education was different because of Roxy's presence, it was hard to imagine that it was a major factor in how things turned out. It was too many variables involved. The current situation was definitely not her fault. That's a good point to make. In all those other timelines, that happened, so that it can't be. Now, how he seizes it, again, Orsted technically did specifically say he enacts a coup. So no matter what, it's going to be bloody. It seemed like Pax is probably being manipulated by the man god. Perhaps, but never mind. I suppose you're right. I like this. Is like, at this moment when I read that, I'm like, I thought you were keeping the man god out of the situation. I guess he's specifically saying, like, I was keeping out the fact that it might be a trap by the man god. But now he's like, it could be the man gods involved. And it's like, okay, you're bringing up the thing that you said you weren't going to bring up. And I thought he was telling Roxy specifically, but it seemed like everybody heard it. Roxy dropped the issue, but didn't seem entirely convinced. He couldn't blame her for being bothered. It had to be tough knowing that your former student were up to no good. And now, I will say that it is a good thing that he brings it up. It kind of is a way of trying to ease her mind, but it obviously doesn't work entirely. Rudeus glanced at Sylphie. She was never his student exactly, but he was the one that taught her the fundamentals of magic, along with a number of other things. What if she ended up on her own after the displacement incident, and started using spells to kill and rob people? Maybe he would feel guilty about it when he found out. Maybe he would want her to stop, or lecture her about the errors of her ways. Well, technically she was killing people, but it was out of self-defense, so she was killing people. And she nearly killed Paul. Let's make that clear. Sylphie then noticed him. What's the matter, Rudy? Oh, nothing. I was just thinking about how you used to do anything I told you to do, back in the day. Where'd that come from? I still do what you tell me. Remember the other night? I told you I was too embarrassed, but you insisted, so Let's not talk about that in front of the children, dear. Oh, right. She has, like, no filters. Girl has no filters. Lucy was seated next to her mother's side, curiously glancing at the two of them. It was very cute. And she was definitely too young to learn about the wrestling matches. Okay, everyone, I think that about covers it. So let's... Suddenly, Lotta started wailing loudly in Roxy's arms. Here it starts. The kid almost never cried, but now she was bawling, stretching out her stubby arms at Rudeus. What's wrong, Lotta? It's okay, it's okay. Lotta refused to stop. It was the first time Rudeus ever heard her cry this loudly. Maybe she picked up on the tension in the room. She really seemed to be looking at Rudeus specifically, reaching for him. Rudy, sure. Rudeus gently took her into his arms, before she instantly stopped crying. Grabbing at his shoulder with her little hand, she clung onto him like a cicada on a tree. Had she realized that he was going off somewhere? Was that why she was so upset? The thought nearly brought him to tears. But he had gone on trips before, and she never reacted this way. Maybe she sensed something different about this one. Don't worry, Lotta. Daddy will be back soon, okay? You be a good girl while I'm gone. She had at least calmed down for now. After patting her gently on the back, he handed her back to Roxy. Or, at least he tried. She clung to his robes with all of her strength. She was like a rhinoceros beetle. He tried to gently pry her off, but she yelped loudly in protest. She seemed determined to stay with Daddy. What a sweet little girl she was. He'd have to take a nice bath with her once he got back. Okay, Roxy, can you take her from here? Okay. Despite her determination, she had the strength of an ordinary infant. It was easy to pull her away and hand her back to Roxy. But the moment that she was back to her mother, Lotta began to shriek bloody murder. This is one of those moments where I get frustrated with Rudeus. Like, why do you have to give her up? Like, she's obviously comfortable. Let her be there and see if she'll go to sleep. Like, it's like, okay, done. Here, take it back. Take this thing back. I don't want it. Like, I could understand if he, like, literally had to leave right now, but it obviously later indicates that he doesn't have to leave immediately. So it's like, it's kind of frustrating how, like, I gotta leave, I gotta leave, I gotta leave, I gotta leave. Again, it's another one of those signs where it's like, as much as he keeps complaining about he doesn't have time with his kids and how he wants to be a better father, it's like, you suck, dude. You kind of suck. The girl was as loud as Edis at this point, and it wasn't like she usually cried. It was starting to feel unsettling. It felt like he was torturing his own child somehow. Because you won't just hold her. Just hold her. So while I'm gone, I guess she got louder and louder. It almost sounded like she was shouting, "No, Dad, wait," or something. It wasn't making it easy for him to leave. He didn't have a choice, though. He needed to go. His best friend was in danger. Glancing down at Lotta, tears ran down her crumpled little face. She was reaching out for him with what looked like genuine desperation. Everyone was staring at her, equally taken aback. There. It's all right. I don't understand what's got her so upset. This has never happened before. Lilia, do you have any ideas? No, I've never seen anything like this myself. Roxy was trying her best to soothe Lotta, but it wasn't having any effect. Reese was getting seriously worried about this. It wasn't normal, was it? He wasn't sure if he can walk out like this. Lotta was supposed to be some sort of messiah, chosen by the sacred beast. There was no telling what that meant exactly, but maybe she was born with some sort of special powers, like the gift of prophecy, or the ability to sense death approaching. It made him consider he would be dying in Shiron. Yeah, it's kind of a bad sign, because again, they've mentioned the idea, I mean, they're sort of implying this chapter that she has cried. But, well, yeah, technically would have to, because, yes, with the whole situation with him in the bed with Roxy and waking up the next morning with Lotta there, apparently she was fussing, and Roxy had to go take care of her and brought her back. So she has cried, but it's still, like, at this level, and specifically reaching for Rudeus out of nowhere. All signs point to she's indicating something. Now, I have heard stories of infants sensing stuff, or at least stories where they claim that a baby has sensed something before it happens, and they're reacting to something, and they're giving a sign, and then something happens. But that could always be like, it's coincidence, basically. But that's sort of his thing that a lot of people believe. Lotta's bitter, miserable cries echoed in the air once again. Prophet or not, she was starting to frighten him a little bit. All right, Lotta, I understand. While everyone looked on, frozen, one woman took action, raising Lada until their eyes were level with each other. Roxy spoke directly to her. I'll go with Daddy and keep him safe. It was just a simple few words, but as she spoke them, his goddess seemed as radiant as the sun. Lada immediately stopped crying. I'm sorry. That is just too on the nose. That is just way too on the nose. That is too on, again, an infant and seemingly understanding. Now, again, there is an aspect of just sort of showing that confidence and that reassurance can get across to something that is emotional. So it could be more the fact that maybe Lada doesn't understand what's going on or what Roxy's saying, but the simple fact that Roxy is saying it with such a calming and determined voice of reassurance, maybe it eased the tension that's in her. Just got some tension inside of her body. But no, this seems to be obviously pointing at something's happening here. So, theories. Theory time. Yes, the chosen one to go with the sacred beast could have the ability of prophecy. Maybe that's a special ability they have, or maybe just Lada herself just has that. So maybe there's a possibility that here Lada has the ability to see something bad's going to happen and doesn't want it to happen, is trying to communicate that to them. Don't leave, Dad. Something bad's going to happen to you. I seen it in a vision. Or yeah, technically there could be an aspect that she does understand what they're saying. Again, going to the idea of her possibly being an isekai. Somebody from another world that has knowledge, and now right here she's playing it out. I know what they're talking about because I can hear them talking, and I don't know how to express that. Rudeus had the same problem. When he was born in this world, he was speaking gibberish. Blah, 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 blah. He can't vocalize. And yes, that could partially be because maybe the way that they were interpreting that, at least with the anime, is the idea that he's speaking Japanese, and it's not coming out as something that they would understand because it's Japanese. But still, in a lot of cases with isekais, the idea here is that even though you are an isekai, it's not that you can actually talk as an infant. You still have to grow up and, I don't know, get the ability to use your mouth properly or your vocals or whatnot. They have to grow in, all that kind of stuff. Now, my third, and I think was probably the most interesting theory that I had reading through this, is what is the possibilities that Lada has the ability to do what the Magurdians do. Now, the only thing that breaks that theory that I have is, okay, going back to the Magurdians with Roxy there, especially the whole Roxy's Homecoming chapter and everything, indicated that the way that they've sort of described the powers of the way that the communication happens with Magurdians is almost like they send their communication to the other person's mind. So if I want to tell you, hey, what's up? I'm saying, hey, what's up? And that gets sent to you through our minds, and it receives into your brain that I said, hey, what's up? Not so much the idea of reading minds, but that's a possibility. What if the possibility of the Magurdians, maybe they are reading each other's minds, and that's the way that they communicate? And if that's the case, even though Roxy has never had the ability to receive that, maybe she has the ability to send that. Because whenever she's with them in, when she was at her home, I think it was describing as the idea that whenever they were trying to communicate, she was just hearing crackles. She couldn't receive it. And maybe she was able to send it, but she just wasn't receiving it. And maybe she was sending it not realizing she was because she could never hear the receiving. So what's the possibility that while they're standing here and talking, Roxy is sending that, because she's a Magurdian, she's sending that information to Lada. And so she's picking up on what Mother's saying through that communication and understands what it is, because it's not a spoken word. So there's a possibility that it works different than spoken word. Like again, when I talk to somebody, I say, hey, what's up? And then your ears pick that up and your brain processes that I said, hey, what's up? Based on your knowledge of what hey means and what's up means. So what's the possibility that whenever a Magurdian's talking to somebody, it's sending symbols? It's sending, like, the Japanese language is, well, all languages is technically a drawing that you perceive as a letter or a word. But yeah, technically with Japanese, a lot of it is like, it's pictures. They're technically drawing a lot of pictures, and a lot of it's that way. So what's the possibility that whenever Roxy is, they're all talking and Roxy's thinking about things, and she's thinking about, man, I wish I can go with him. It's dangerous. Oh, now the man god's involved. The man god's dangerous. She's thinking all this, but it's sending to Lada, And Lada's picking up on it and understands it because it's not spoken word, it's actually symbols that she can actually figure out. Again, that can also coincide with the idea of her being a isekai, that she would understand what she's saying. And maybe, yeah, again, in that case, I don't want to see my dad die. I need him around. He's powerful. Now, it would make you question why an isekai would be so attached to Rudeus that they would be concerned for his well-being unless they see that he is crucial for something. And maybe, again, that can go into prophecy. It could all technically tie together. Prophecy of seeing it, hearing what Roxy's saying through her mind, or hearing it in spoken word, it all coming together. And yes, even if as an isekai seeing Rudeus as being I think an isekai would probably see Rudeus as being a nasty person and going, oh crap, this is my dad, which is technically what Rudeus did at some point. Man, this is my dad. But still seeing that through all this other stuff, I need them around. Through the prophecy, he's important. He needs to stick around and he's going to go in danger. It's all very, very interesting. Anyways, moving on. Oh, Refugin. But no doubt she knows something. No doubt she either heard them, understands them, is reading something, seen a prophecy, something. She knows something, right? If they eventually chop this up, if Refugin eventually chopped this up as she felt tension and started crying for some reason directly at him, and it doesn't turn to something special, it seemed like a cheesy move, very cheesy move. But yeah, of course I'm thrilled that Roxy's coming. No, I don't want her in danger. I hope she's not in danger. I hope she doesn't get put in danger, but super happy that best girl Roxy is going along with Rudeus. I was very pleased about that. Very more surprised later on who doesn't come along with him. Roxy was coming along. Rudeus tried to stop her, of course, saying that she wasn't coming and laid out his arguments, dangers, fears of the man god's trap. He even stated that she would slow him down in battle. She didn't even flinch at a single one. She responded with, so it's a trap? That would explain why Lada was so upset. Mind explaining me why you didn't mention that detail previously? And why I might not be much use in a fight? I think I'll be helpful in other ways. He then tried to claim that Perugius would refuse a demon folk from his fortress. If Perugius refuses my entrance to the fortress, I can always head to Shiron on another route myself. More importantly, he reasoned that he'd lose her dream job at the university. Yes, I always wanted to be an instructor, but I wouldn't trade my husband's life for a satisfying career. Girl. Girl. His last resort was to argue that this wasn't some sort of decision that she could make simply because her baby cried. Isn't it my duty as a mother to comfort my child? His arguments lay in tatters, and the rest of the family was basically on Roxy's side. It wasn't like they were eager to see her in danger, but when he argued the trap possibility, they all reacted with an aha. We knew you were keeping something from us. After being chewed out, Edis insisted on coming along. Sylphie managed to talk her down, but then she said that she'd join too. They were all honestly unnerved by Lada's strange, desperate behavior. In the end, Roxy managed to calm everyone down and bring them to a consensus. She did this by firmly asserting that she'd accompany him as a representative for the others. Her reassurance convinced Sylphie and Edis to back down. Roxy really knew her way around an argument, but of course that wasn't working entirely for his advantage. He preferred having everyone and everything he loved as safe as possible. Roxy was his treasure, and part of him wanted to keep her locked up in a nice secure box. Of course, Roxy was a determined woman with a will of her own. She could be downright stubborn sometimes. If he outright tried to refuse her, he had a feeling that she would come to Shiron on her own. In that case, it would be better to bring her with him. Having her nearby would make it easier to protect her. Yeah, it's like, that's the case with all of them. Like, at some point, you just realize they're going to do it anyways. You might as well have them nearby. Honestly, he was a bit nervous about the mission. Orsted wasn't going to be nearby to save him from any ambushes, and he wasn't sure how he'd convince Zenoba to come back home. He'd be stumbling into a foggy swamp with dangers. But now Roxy would be there to help him navigate the situation. The woman he respected more than anyone else in the entire world. That was genuinely reassuring. Yes, you have best girl with you. Obviously, that's very reassuring. The next day, they began preparations. The first thing Rudeus wanted to do was address Zenoba's equipment. Rudeus wanted to keep himself alive, but he didn't want Zenoba to die either. That's the whole point you're going, obviously. Checking the armory and Orsted's offices, he settled on a heavy suit of armor that he dismissed as too bulky to use before. It granted full invulnerability to fire magic. Perfect for Zenoba, since he was weak to that element. Yeah, I was thinking that perfectly. Fire magic specifically. That seems convenient. As for his weapon, Orsted told him there simply wasn't anything capable of enduring the raw physical strength of a blessed child like Zenoba. Rudeus settled on making Zenoba a customized club. It was basically a massive stone bat, reinforced with magic to increase its strength and durability. It'd be difficult for an average man to lift it, but Zenoba could easily swing it around like a toy. If he hit anything, it would die instantly. Despite this, Zenoba was clumsy and slow on his feet. For that, Rudeus found a magic item called Ravenous Fisher's Throw Net. When you hurled it, it would lock onto the target and hunt them down until it wrapped them up. That's an interesting item. Specifically, a net that will track down a target and lock in on them. It's one of those things where you're like, some of these magic items seem a little bit too convenient. Like, the assumption here is that, again, you have an item that is in a labyrinth and the mana is flowing through it and it makes it magical. But, like, what it does is completely random, and that's why certain items are, like, super expensive. And it's like, okay, there happened to be a net in a labyrinth somewhere, and it just happened to get the ability to lock onto a target. Like, it didn't, I don't know, get the ability to just burst in flames. While Rudeus wasn't too happy about how he looked in that clunky armor, Zenoba sounded quite satisfied with the suggestion of all 3 items. For the safety of Roxy, he improved her gear as well. He wanted to seal her up in a big suit of plate armor as well, but that wasn't practical for her. Get a magic armor for her. Again, we need that. I would guess that maybe at this point, Julie and Roxy can probably fit in the same Julie mecha suit. For one, she was an experienced adventurer with her own combat style. Putting her in totally unfamiliar equipment was more likely to backfire, throwing her off her game. He settled with a ring that would deploy a defensive barrier in response to physical attacks, and a necklace that would absorb one single fatal blow for its bearer before shattering. He was still worried. He'd have to stay on top of things if they found battle. He trained himself rigorously to deal with anything the man god might throw at him. Yeah, and the problem there is that he's probably always like prepared himself for the man god, or whoever the man god might send, or for whatever job he might have, but he hasn't probably been training himself to protect other people. They also informed the university of their plans, out of fear of them firing Roxy. Rudeus concocted a plan with Roxy and Zenoba to trick the principal. Zenoba claimed that he'd be returning Roxy to her rightful place as a court magician of Shiron. Kinda clever. Pressing on this and having the principal fight back, eventually Zenoba caved in and claimed that he'd return her once things resolved there. It seemed the principal didn't want to lose such a talented instructor. From his end, Roxy was an official member of the university's faculty, and therefore under his protection. Yeah, they were fighting to keep her there and protect her. It's kind of an interesting thing. It kind of makes you wonder, would they even fire her if she went there temporarily without doing this whole trick? Next, Rudeus went over his own equipment. He'd be bringing Magic Armor version 1 and Magic Armor version 2, plus his Gatling gun. He realized that it's been some time since he's Aqua Hartia. It made him feel bad for letting a gift from Edis gather dust. But she seemed to have no issues with him using the best gear that he could. The girl wasn't exactly sentimental, which made him kind of sad. He got all misty-eyed thinking about that night, the way that it felt when he touched her chest. It's like, dude, don't go back there. Don't go back to that controversy. Yeah, that is kind of an interesting thing. It's like, would she actually mind? I think it is actually more, it's more of a statement that she says, okay, yeah, if that's not the best gear, then don't use it. Again, putting his life before her own like feelings of sentimentalness to this item, which I don't think that she would. Nothing has indicated to me that Edis has any sort of sentimental feelings towards objects of the world, only to Rudeus. And she had sentimental feelings for like her family, like Saros and stuff like that. But Rudeus right now is the only thing in her life, and this other stuff doesn't really matter. Who cares about that staff? Yes, I gave it to you, but again, I want you safe, and so if using that Gatling gun's better, that seems more caring to me. Back on subject, the staff was resting in a place of honor on his bedroom wall. He considered formally handing it down to Sylphie. Unlike Edis, who was always ready to replace her swords, Sylphie had been using the same beginner's rod he gifted her so many years ago. But would she be annoyed or overjoyed getting a present that was from another woman? Getting a hand-me-down? Then again, it was Roxy who originally gave him that rod too. So yeah, that kind of confirms the idea that the rod that was given to him from Roxy, he gave to Sylphie. Which I think there was at some point indicating that it possibly was a rod that he made for her. Which I don't think that was the case. Because I think sadly in the anime, I think it looks different? Question mark? There was some sort of oddity there that I remember running into that I have to look into again. In any case, the plan was to use the Magic Armor version 2, which was more mobile and practical for daily use. If they ran into a deadly enemy, he'd break out version 1 and hit them with all of his full strength. It was a strategy he always used. He could do this. He trained himself to go toe-to-toe with the strongest opponents. Version 1 was bulky, and unlike version 2, couldn't be worn all day. They'd be transporting them in pieces to their destination, then reassemble them once there. It would make packing them much easier. Plus, the man god knew about the magic armor's existence. It couldn't hurt to be less obvious about them bringing them along. Kinda crafty. They sorted out the party's equipment. Now they had to figure out how they were going to get to Shiron. Thus, Zenoba and Rudeus went off to grovel at Perugius' feet. Interesting little segment. At the floating fortress, they were ushered into an appointment room. Rudeus had never been there before. It was some sort of art gallery. It had paintings and shelves full of palm-sized sculptures. Somehow the artwork felt different than anywhere else in the castle. The paintings in Perugius' hallways and reception rooms tended to look more valuable, while the works here were more striking or on the interesting side. This is a pretty nice room, isn't it? Oh?
It's your first time here, Master?
Yeah, I guess I usually talk to him in the reception room or the gardens. Savarl spoke up nearby. Lord Perugius only invites his most valued confidants to this particular room. Unless Rudeus was mistaken, she seemed to be implying that Perugius never fully trusted him until now. Sometimes he got the feeling Savarl didn't like him very much. We've established that already. Though it was probably his boss that she wasn't too fond of. Yeah, again, it indicates that Perugius and Orsted aren't on very good terms, and if Perugius isn't on good terms with Orsted, or at least an indication there that Perugius fears Orsted, Savarl probably doesn't like him around. Somebody that could possibly hurt my master.
Please, Miss Savarl, it's rather rude of you to imply that Master Rudeus is inferior to myself in any way.
For the record, Zenoba was kind of rude for not turning to talk to her. It's simply a fact that Lord Perugius has always instructed me to bring you to this room, Lord Zenoba, and not your companion. Although it seems he's made something of an exception today, for some reason. Her tone was calm, but her words seemed to bother Zenoba. Enough that he snapped his head back around to face her.
I suppose that Master Rudeus had all but stopped making figurines by the time he met Lord Perugius, so I can hardly blame you for underestimating his worthiness. But let me assure you, his skills as a craftsman put my academic expertise to shame. I'd never presume to call myself his equal. However, Lord Perugius seems to think Rudeus Greyrat is my master. I'll grant you that he lacks a depth of artistic knowledge that Lord Perugius and myself possess. But if I weren't in his guidance, I never would have become a man worthy of great Perugius's regard.
Savarl went silent for a moment. Rudeus had a feeling that she was scowling under her mask. Rudeus was used to Zenoba showering him with praises, but this latest bout left him feeling kind of touched. He wouldn't let this get to his head, though. His knowledge was just based on his figurines of his previous life. Savarl then apologized with a bow. While Rudeus didn't care about Savarl respecting him, Zenoba accepted her apology.
Ah, Zenoba, good of you to come.
Perugius strode through the door before pausing to study Zenoba and Savarl. It seemed that he sensed the lingering hint of awkwardness in the air.
What's the matter? Did Savarl displease you somehow? Not at all. We were merely discussing the fact that Master Rudeus had never set foot in this room before today.
It was nice that Zenoba chose not to tattle to the boss. He was really a good guy at heart.
He's like, yeah, she's being mean. Tell her. Perugius, Savarl's being mean. Ah, yes. I suppose I never found an opportune moment before. Well, Rudeus, what do you think of this little collection?
I was just admiring it, actually. Compared to the works that you've had hanging around the hallways, everything here seems to have a really distinctive style.
Oh.
The art that you have displayed everywhere else is clearly high-quality stuff, in a way that appeals to most everyone. But I think you chose the works here that suit your own personal taste, perhaps.
Exactly right.
It kind of makes me want him to explain or describe some of the other stuff in there. With a broad smile, Perugius lowered himself into his chair at the table. Rudeus was shocked that he got it right. Guess he wasn't a totally tasteless barbarian. He figured Savarl was surprised too. Yeah, what do you think of that, huh, Savarl? What do you think of that, huh?
Now then, what can I do for you today? Perhaps you have brought me another intriguingly unique figure, I'm afraid not, Lord Perugius. I've come to inform you I will be returning to my homeland shortly, and to bid you my farewells.
Perugius furrowed his brow uncertainly, studying Zenoba's face. His gaze lingered, and his expression quickly turned darkened. Despite this, Zenoba smoothly proceeded to describing the letter from Shiron. The entire time, Perugius didn't so much nod.
So I'm sure that you can appreciate I will be returning to Shiron at once.
After a few seconds, Perugius looked his friend in the eyes and spoke.
You intend to die there then? What makes you think so, if I might ask? It's written on your face. I've seen that look on far too many faces in my time.
It seemed like a reach to Rudeus, but he wasn't going to stop him from trying to talk Zenoba out of this. It would be best case scenario to avoid hopping into a trap. It's like, that's weird. Okay, just continue though. Continue though. No, I mean, Perugius has seen war. Countless deaths. I mean, even if Zenoba's face looks normal to Rudeus, like he doesn't see there, he's probably see some sort of subtlety there, or how he presents the information to Perugius. He can probably totally see, yeah, heard that one before. Yep, seen that before. Which technically hurts what's coming up. It technically hurts.
Let's say you're right. For the sake of argument, what would you propose I do about it? I'd lend you my aid if you're looking to fight. I value our discussions on art greatly. After all, I wouldn't hesitate to eliminate anyone who threatened to disrupt them, such as a certain pretender king, perhaps.
Damn. Again, Perugius is somebody that, unless it involves Laplace, he does not want to get involved. It took them forever for Ariel to get him to help her. And we've had countless situations where this guy's like, if it's not to do with Laplace, I don't care. I don't want to get involved. It'll take me away from this, and I need to focus on this. It's crazy to see him like literally right here. There's no convincing him. They didn't have to go through this long thing to convince him. He literally just says, because I value our discussions, I will help you. I will go to war. I will destroy a king for our discussions. That's how much he cares for Zenoba and their discussions.
I'm afraid I must decline that offer.
Oof.
Ha! Yes, I suppose you would.
There's a side of that is like, I think that he kind of knew that that's what Zenoba would say. He knows him too well. Again, this is a person that when Zenoba first came and met Perugius liked Zenoba because when Zenoba came up there, he's like, "What do you want me? You want me to take over the kingdom for you?" "Nope. I just want to look at your figurines." It's so crazy, and it sucks. When Perugius said that, I'm like, yes, we don't have Orsted, but we can have Perugius. Hell yeah, bring him. But no, Zenoba says no. It's so curious. Perugius flashed a look at Rudeus. It felt like a signal, but Rudeus wasn't sure what he was supposed to say. But then Perugius looked back at Zenoba.
"Tell me, Zenoba, did this man give his blessings for your suicide attempt?" "Not exactly, but he did offer to accompany me." "Oh, and you accepted that offer?" "I don't believe I had much of a choice. It was within Master Rudeus's power to keep me from leaving by force, if he so choose."
So that's why he didn't argue with him. He wasn't wrong, though. The man knew him all too well. Yeah, it's like Rudeus, like, yeah, I technically probably would have stopped you if he didn't let me come with you.
"I see. Well, I expect that Rudeus would sacrifice his own life to protect you, if it comes to that." "Ah, don't be absurd, Lord Perugius. Master Rudeus is a married man with children, and a mission he must fulfill. I'm certain he will prioritize his own safety if it becomes necessary." "Are you the pupil of a man who would abandon his own friend on the battlefield, Zenoba?" "Certainly not. However, Master Rudeus is a man of astonishing talent. Surely he will find a way to both protect me and ensure his safety."
Zenoba thought Rudeus was superhuman. That aside, Zenoba was brushing off Perugius' reference to his death in a weirdly casual way. It was pretty clear that the option of not going to Shiron never once registered in his thoughts. Perugius seemed to realize this as well, apparently losing interest in the conversation. He propped his face against his fist and heaved a heavy sigh.
"Very well, then. I imagine you didn't come here just to say goodbye. Is there something you wish to ask of me?"
This whole thing is like, yeah, I kind of wish they got into talking about why Zenoba would not bring Perugius. Why not? And I think that's really because, again, this is what kind of is sort of encompassing every discussion about Zenoba going back. He was going back alone. He's just fulfilling this one debt that he has. This Shiron has been taking care of me. They've never executed me. They have forgiven me for everything I've done, and I need to go back and resolve that. So it's kind of giving a thought process here that he doesn't want to get anybody involved. He just wants to go by himself. Let me do this. I have to do this. Perugius, I'm not going to put that upon Perugius. I have to do this. Only me. And now, again, like I said before, which is really shocking, Perugius, who, again, I think even, with Nanahoshi, did not want to get involved. With Rudeus, with Ariel, did not want to get involved. He didn't want to get involved with anything that's not Laplace. But here he is going, I treasure our moments together. I will help you. And yes, I can kind of see there's a chance here he said that knowing that Zenoba was going to say no, because Zenoba doesn't want the throne. He's already, that could be to that answer as well. You know, you want me to take over the throne for you, get rid of that pretender king? Yeah, you don't want that. You've already told me that you don't want that. So maybe it's more of the fact that he's asking a question he already knows the answer to. But yeah, come along and help. Why not? It sucks. It sucks. But again, I think it's because Zenoba doesn't want to get anybody involved. He's just doing this because he has a debt to repay. And again, he kind of points out the idea that no matter what, Master was going to come with me. And I almost expected Perugius to say, so you think that he could stop you, but you don't think I can't? You don't think that I can't? It's kind of interesting. But yeah, I doubt you came here to say goodbye. What do you want? What do you want? You guys always come here because you want something.
"We'd like to request access to a teleportation circle and kingdom of Shiron. Permission to bring magic armor inside your castle and safe passage through the halls for Roxy Megurdia."
There it is. Oh, gosh.
"Who is the wife of Master Rudeus and demon by birth." "I'll ready a circle for you at once. You may bring the magic armor through my halls as well, but I cannot permit a demon to set foot within my castle."
Poor Roxy's still rejected. Even Zenoba could not get it approved. Perugius visibly grimaced at the very thought, which wasn't a surprise. His familiar, Armanfi, had already turned Roxy away at the gates, and his hatred for all demon kind was clearly deep. Again, I don't know if that's the case because he doesn't go over and just nuke all of demon kind. And he's been over there several times. I think there's something else about it, and Roxy sort of picks up on something later, which I thought was interesting.
You would refuse her entrance, Lord Perugius, even at the request of Ch2-3 Shiron? Tell me this. Who is Ch2-3 Shiron to me, that I would be so pliable to his whims? A former connoisseur of the arts, with taste not unlike your own, and your good friend, I hope. You'd name yourself a friend of the Armored Dragon King? You, the mere princeling of a minor desert nation? With the greatest possible respect, Lord Perugius, in matters of friendship, neither rank nor race are particularly relevant.
Friggin' Zenova. He's not even flinching. Perugius glared at Zenova, who held his gaze without flinching. Savarl was also staring intently at Zenova. The atmosphere was heavy. If Rudeus was in Zenoba's shoes, he would have broke down to apologize by now. Suddenly, with an upward jerk of his chin, Perugius let out a bark of laughter. Ha ha ha! Very well then. I will permit the demon passage through my halls.
My sincerest thanks for your kindness.
However, I must insist on certain conditions. Perugius laid out 3 rules to follow. Once inside the castle walls, Roxy wouldn't be allowed to speak a word, touch anything, or see Perugius himself. None of this was an issue, since they were only passing through. Zenova agreed on the spot. All very, very, very interesting. Very interesting. Again, later on, Roxy does technically get onto something, but that can't be the case because they went directly there. But yeah, it's like, okay, I can see not seeing Perugius himself because Perugius does not want to see a demon. He'd probably want to kill them. So maybe he's saying that because he doesn't want to kill Roxy. So it would technically break the idea here of permitting them to go by if he kills her, but also maybe not wanting to kill the wife of Rudeus. It would break their friendship or their bond they've gotten. Not speak a word. That is the most intriguing thing. The not speaking a word is the thing that I'm most stuck on. And again, I think that might be because there's something there that if a demon speaks on could cause problems. And then additionally, yes, not touch anything, which I can totally see being overall a big issue. Yeah, I can kind of agree with Roxy later on, the idea that it's just, you could figure out something that you shouldn't figure out that could cause them problems later on. But I think it's all simply on the idea that that floating fortress is very important for him as a placement in his ability to fight Laplace whenever Laplace shows up. So I think the idea there really is that he doesn't want any demons in there that will cause a problem for the floating fortress, or take it over, or discover something in there that they shouldn't know about. Maybe the murals, something like that. There's some information in there that could technically, he'd not want the demons, which he would then go to Laplace, would have access to. My original theory was the idea that the seal for Laplace was in that place, and if they got access to it, they could release Laplace. But they've already indicated that, yes, Laplace isn't technically sealed, he's just reincarnating. But there's a lot of stuff in that fortress that I guess could possibly be a danger. Shoot, the gates that indicate who possibly have an aspect of Laplace. I hope eventually they get into it.
Very well then. Savarl, see to the preparations of the teleportation circle.
Yes, my lord. After Savarl hurried off, Perugius studied Zenova with a small frown of displeasure.
Ch2-3 Shiron. Yes, I shall miss our conversations.
Oof. He's totally writing him off. Again, because he sees all the soldiers of the past that were going off to their deaths. He sees Zenova going off to his death. And it really hurts because with everything coming up, it's like it seems like everything's compounding on everybody saying goodbye for the last time, and it sucks. It feels really like they're flagging the hell out of Zenova with this. Both of them rose from their seats simultaneously. As Perugius strolled away, Zenova bowed to him without a word. While Perugius walked as steadily as ever, Rudeus thought that he could see a hint of sadness in the way that he held his shoulders. After taking apart the magic armor version 1, they took the first trip to Shiron and stashed it away. A friend of Ginger's, who belonged to the Woodcutters Guild, helped them disguise the pieces as blocks of stone, to have them carried to the warehouse close to the capital. Ginger would be going on ahead of them, so Rudeus had her collect information on the situation. His hope was that the invasion from the north was a complete fabrication. It was our last chance to convince Zenova to stay in Shiron. That would be the hope. Yeah, he's just doing that to get you come back. All right, not heading back now. Sadly, as far as Ginger could tell, The kingdom of Bista really was gathering forces at the border. All of Shiron was primed and ready for war. Their streets were full of mercenaries and scruffy-looking thugs itching for a fight. It also seemed that King Pax was entrusted with 10 of the King Dragon Realm's most skilled knights. It was they who butchered his enemies after the coup. 10 knights didn't seem like much support, but it seemed like they were formidable. Pax and those 10 hadn't been the only ones to launch the coup, but it had succeeded due to their efforts. Rudeus couldn't discount that the Man God's plan involved them somehow. Unfortunately, Ginger didn't get the names of the 10 knights, but she did hear rumors of a man with a gaunt skeletal face accompanying King Pax everywhere. Some say he's the Death God, one of the 7 great powers. Confirmation there. That was my confirmation right there of my prediction that with the King Dragon's Realm being involved, yep, Death God's gonna be involved. And I guess that's kind of a tip of the hand, because I'm not sure if the Nanahoshi Dragon Meat chapter was in the web novel, but that probably was way back there trying to hint at that. So it seemed it was a pretty obvious assumption there that, yeah, I think the Death God's going to be involved. If the Man God, especially if the Man God's involved, he's going to be wanting the Death God sent at Rudeus in this scenario. Rudeus grimaced at the thought of that, but doubted the rumors could be true. It was hard to imagine the King Dragon Realm would dispatch one of the 7 most powerful people in the world for Pax's private use. Yeah, if, again, the Man God's involved and is like, hey, you need to send that guy, otherwise it's going to be bad for you guys. Still, he would have to tell Orsted just in case. A man with a skeletal face? What did that even mean? When Rudeus reported to Zenoba, his comment was only to make haste. His tone was calm as ever, but there was a glimmer of anxiety in his eyes. Running out of ways to talk him out of it, they decided to leave within the next few days. Their party would be 4: Rudeus, Zenoba, Ginger, and Roxy. Julie would stay behind with his family until the danger was past. And that is chapter 2. God, that was actually long. That was actually a long recording just for chapter 2. I guess I could wrap it up there. No, I'm joking. But yeah, that's a given. I really do. I am curious about Zenoba. I mean, we're gonna get some more into it here in a minute. Just how Zenoba sees this whole situation is so curious that he's actually kind of excited for the war. But there's a side of me that kind of wonders if all this stuff is just him putting on a face, a glimmer of anxiety in his eyes. But he wants to make haste. And again, later on, this desire to actually fight in a war. It's weird. Chapter 3, The Return to Shiron. The night before the departure, they had an unexpected visitor at Rudeus' house. I immediately knew who this was going to be. Leo was barking his head off, and Edis burst from her room with murder in her eyes. We're under attack! Huh? Heart racing, Rudeus ducked back into his bedroom and grabbed his staff and torch. Outside the window was no sign of danger. It was dark, but there was a silhouette at the front gate. It's all right, Edis. That's not an enemy out there. Right. I guess not. Can't help but still be affected by it. It's a good thing that they seem to think that the curse is when you see it. So hopefully Aisha and all them didn't look out the window. Edis stood next to Rudeus, scowling down at the shadowy figure. Rudeus left his staff and stepped out into the hallway. After shooing away his sleepy and confused family, he made his way to the gate. Opening the front door, Orsted waited for him patiently outside. Bite tangled around the front gate and was wrapped around Orsted, squeezing him aggressively. It was like a tentacle-themed artwork.
My apologies for the late night visit.
Oh, that's all right. Stop it, Bite. Let him go. Down, boy. Down, Bite.
I'm here because I learned something that you must know. Follow me. This shouldn't take long.
Okay. Orsted smoothly ripped off Bite's vines before walking off. Reese quickly casted healing spells on the loyal Treant. Edis was standing at the door, arms folded. He told her that he'd be back before rushing off to Orsted. Sadly, there was no restaurants open this late at night, so they met at a nearby empty plot of land. Reese's torch was the only light they had, as this was a moonless night. A lot of their conversations tended to be in the dark, which always made it feel like they were doing something evil. So, what is it you want to discuss?
The new pawn that the Man God's chosen. I've developed a theory based on the information Ginger York provided. I'll explain it to you, and then give you a rough strategy to follow. First of all, on the subject of the 10 knights, I expect none of them aren't particularly notable or dangerous.
Okay.
As for the 10th, the man with a face like a corpse, I believe I'm familiar with him. There's only one knight of the King Dragon Realm with significant skills and a skeletal face, you see.
Who is he then?
Randolph Mariani, the Death God. 5th amongst the 7 great powers. He is the King Dragon Realm's secret weapon.
Why would they loan out their secret weapon to support a coup in a random country?
I don't know, but it seems fairly likely that the Man God arranged it somehow. It is difficult to imagine the King Dragon Realm would allow the Death God to leave their service. And I did consider the possibility it was someone else. But I don't know of any other pawn on the board capable of killing me or you. It seems safe to assume the worst. I'll tell you what I know about him. Randolph the Death God does not ascribe to any established school of swordplay. His style is unique and self-taught.
So he made his moves up by himself?
That is correct. You can't expect him to follow any familiar patterns. He uses every trick and tool he can use in the pursuit of victory.
That sounded a bit like Regeur's philosophy. It was never fun fighting an unpredictable person. Yeah, that's technically true. I mean, the way that Regeur fights is kind of interesting, and that sort of played into how Edis fought, and what sort of threw people off when she finally went up to the Sword Sanctum. It's like she was kind of unpredictable, and the way that she moved was styles that Regeur was using, and so it kind of broke those conventions. And what's funny enough is, like, as it goes along, it's like, no, I can technically contribute a lot of this stuff to the North God style and the Water God style, and they kind of confirmed one of them, which was kind of interesting.
However, he does possess a signature technique. It's known as the Enthralling Blade.
Rudeus imagines swinging a sword around dramatically to distract before stabbing.
There are two distinct variations of the technique, the Enticing Blade and the Arresting Blade.
Okay, how are they different?
The Enticing Blade convinces the enemy to advance when it's unwise and counters their attack. The Arresting Blade convinces his enemy to hold back when they ought to strike.
That seemed vague and difficult to picture. It's so interesting. That's technically like a very common thing that they've had in a lot of stuff. I think Undead Unluck had that as well. Like that idea of like being able to draw a person forward or make them advance or retreat.
The man is a master of manipulating his opponent's thoughts in battle. When you believe you should attack, do not attack. When you believe you should defend, don't defend. You won't so much lay a finger on him if you trust your instincts. I guarantee it.
It sort of sounds like I'm not allowed to do anything at all.
Wrong. When you want to defend, simply attack instead. When you want to attack, defend. But don't blind yourself to moments when an attack is truly rational or caution is purely necessary.
That was making Rudeus' head hurt. Yeah, it's like literally like, don't, like, okay, so I think of defending, so you attack. Well, then you're thinking of attacking, which could be what he, it's like, what is this logic? It makes my head hurt.
Don't fall for his acting, essentially. Stay focused and overwhelm him.
Rudeus really wanted Orsted to handle it instead, but he was heading to King Dragon Realm soon. So yeah, can you do this? Like, if it's this bad, why don't you do it? Let's go back and get Perugius. Let's go back and get Perugius. That would be my argument. I would literally tell Zenoba, hey, I've just confirmed that we might be facing the Death God, and I don't think we can handle him. So let's get Perugius to help. I know you don't want to get him to help him, but if you want to repay your kingdom, if you don't get Perugius to help you, we're just going to go over there and die, and so you won't be able to repay them. The best way that you can repay them is to have Perugius help. Do you think I can actually defeat him?
The man's one of the great powers. As you might expect, he's a master of technique, with numerous ways of countering offensive magic. It certainly won't be easy. However, he was only recently returned to the battlefield after an absence of many years. I doubt he can even compete with the gods of the three great styles at present. Now that you know the theory behind the Enthralling Blade, you have every chance of victory, as long as you can resist his feints and tricks.
That was nice to hear. But Rudeus wasn't entirely convinced. The mere idea of fighting anyone with God in their title was terrifying. It was hard to imagine winning. Still, he put up a good fight against Auber and North Emperor. Maybe he was ready for an opponent like this. Yeah, there's two aspects here. Yes, I can agree with the idea that if this guy's been out of combat for so long, Orsted even believes, yeah, this guy's gonna be rusty. This guy's gonna be extremely rusty. And he's even saying, like, if he went up against one of the other gods of the other styles, he couldn't compete with them. The 7 great powers, when Rudeus went by it, was listed as Technique God, Dragon God, Fighting, Demon, Death, Sword, and North. And so what he's saying here is that currently he's still 5. So Orsted's confirming he's still 5, meaning he hasn't dropped down, which is interesting. So it's saying that he couldn't go up against the other sword styles. So that means that if he went up against number 6 or 7, he'd lose, and thus he'd be 7th. But it's interesting because if he's still saying that he's 5th, and he's had this time off. And yes, technically Rudeus went by there before arriving where he was being a restaurant owner before he went back into combat. So it kind of implies the idea that the monuments themselves don't adjust until they fight each other, possibly. Which that's kind of curious, because you'd think that the Death God would fall down below there if Orsted's correct that he would not be able to face the other sword styles gods without failing and losing. But that is kind of an interesting thing to sort of throw in there. Because of his rustiness, this could technically allow Rudeus to defeat his first of the 7 great powers. It's kind of given a technicality that he fights the weakest one that got rusty. You know, from what you've told me so far, this Death God style sounds kind of similar to the North God approach.
As it should. He was originally considered a potential candidate to assume the rank of North God.
Candidate? Then he didn't make the cut for the spot, in other words. He was listed above the current North God in the 7 great powers. Which again, yes, because the North was at 7 when he went by it. So how did someone like that end up with the title Death God anyways? Orsted ended up obliging his curiosity with the guy's life story. Again, I can technically see it being very similar to the Norse style. Again, being very battle strategy, adaptive, cheap tricks, all that kind of stuff. Again, similar to Auburn and stuff like that. But yeah, I was kind of thinking it would be similar to the Water God style as well, because it seems to have counters and whatnot. But again, tricks usually kind of apply themselves to the Norse style. Randolph Mariani was the grandson of the second North God to hold that title. The early years of his childhood were spent training under his grandfather, alongside a man who would become the third North God. However, Randolph had a dramatic falling out with his grandfather soon after he came of age, leaving everything he'd known behind. He went out into the world alone and began to develop his own techniques independently. In time, he grew powerful enough to defeat one of the 7 great powers in a battle that took place on the Demon Continent. Claiming his opponent's title, Randolph began to call himself the Death God. But from that day on, he was subjected to relentless attacks from those that dreamed of taking their place amongst the 7 great powers. The duels and ambushes came on a daily basis. Randolph found himself locked in an endless, pointless struggle against a sea of men and women who found meaning only in battle. That's what Rejerd was actually talking about. Which makes me think that Rejerd met the Death God, because it seems like everything right there mentioning what he went through is sort of exactly what Rejerd was talking about. It makes me believe that maybe possibly he was working under the Death God, or maybe tried to train under him. But again, Rejerd's explanation of it kind of indicated this idea of it being sort of this thing that just caused them to fight endlessly. So all the accounts here sort of coincides with what Rejerd said. So yeah, I think that they knew each other. After 10 years of this, he grew thoroughly repulsed by his bloody routine. Resolving to change his life completely, Randolph returned to his homeland, the King Dragon Realm, and studied to become a cook. Once he was ready, he took over a nearly bankrupt restaurant from a relative. A new chapter in the legend of the Death God began. Sadly, it turned out to be a brief one. The restaurant performed so badly that he went out of business entirely. Randolph was a prodigy as a swordsman, but was a mediocre chef. Saddled with a massive loan he had no means to repay, he found himself recruited by the general of the King Dragon Realm and assumed his current position as a royal knight. And that was the entire story of Randolph's life so far, from birth to middle age probably. What a heartwarming tale. Heartwarming. And just think about it. Rudeus, you were the last straw that sent him back there, and now he's become your possible enemy. If only you had said that his food was good and made true to your promise of trying to help bring in more customers. He was saying like if he liked the food, he probably would go out there and advertise for the guy. No, you bashed him and stormed out. You could have stopped this, Rudeus. But yeah, it does technically answer with that technique that he has. That explains why he's able to take down dragons. I mean, the assumption there was like, okay, yeah, if he's powerful enough to be one of the 7 great powers, of course he can kill a dragon. But yeah, with that ability, I can totally see in that. If he can use that ability on a dragon and cause the dragon to essentially be reckless and, advance or retreat at his own beck and call.
So long as you approach the battle correctly, you'd match up reasonably well against the Death God. But if he does come for you, don't fight him at close range. Use your magic armor's mobility to maintain your distance, like you did against me.
All right. Thank you, sir. Committing this in memory, Rudeus bowed to Orsted.
That's all for now, Rudeus. Don't get yourself killed out there.
Well, I'll do my best. He had the info on the biggest threat, which was better than nothing. The next morning, the whole family seen Rudeus off. He gave Sylvia a hug, asked Edis not to give the child a boy's name if it was a girl. Aisha claimed they'd get more members for the band while he was away. Norn at some point mentioned that Zenoba had been quite kind to her during his time there, hoping that he'd find a way to get him through the crisis safely. That was interesting. I don't think we've ever indicated that Norn spent time with Zenoba, but here she's actually he was actually really nice to me, so help him get through this. So that was kind of cool. Lilia's farewell felt a little melodramatic, praying for his safety. She had taken up the role of a matron of the household, but Rudeus sometimes wanted to remind her that she was still relatively young. Yeah, that's always been kind of a struggle for me. But I think that comes from a perspective that Rudeus feels like she can go out and remarry. Like, there's this idea of like, yeah, she's doing really well as a matron of this household, but he kind of wants her to go out and find a new man and, you know, get married again or whatever. But it's like, but that's kind of like denying what she always was, a part of that family. You're basically asking her to make a new family. That's sort of a rejection of her identity, which he gets into a little bit more right here. As Zenith took the opportunity to pat Rudeus on the head, he was reminded that her condition was the main thing that kept Lilia anchored here. A part of him felt like his family had stolen most of Lilia's life from her, but it was the road that she chose for herself. Key thing there. That last sentence is a key thing there. She wanted that. Now, yes, early on, Lilia was doing it because she messed up and seduced Paul, slept with Paul, got pregnant, and it kind of turned this whole thing where it was like it was a redemption arc for her. I messed up. I essentially lied to Zenith, who trusted me. I had her trust, and I broke that trust, and I robbed her husband from her. But then over time, it turned into that Lilia is a part of the family. She was the sister wife. She was one of the wives. She was technically Zenith's wife at that point. Paul's just a third wheel, but she became part of the family. And it's so interesting to have this little point right here where after all of these volumes, seemingly trying to drill into heads that Lilia is family. Aisha is his sister. Lilia has never been the maid. And that's it's kind of crazy how counter that is to the idea of, I mean, we had here recently with the anime adaptation. Aisha, who told you that you're the daughter of the maid? Who told you that Lilia was just a maid? You are family. And now here he's almost rejecting her as part of the family. Why would you think Lilia would want to go off and find another husband? She's family. That's almost like saying Zenith should go off and get married again. It's kind of a heartbreaking thing for him to even consider. And no, I disagree with him that Zenith's condition is what's keeping her anchored there. Because if Zenith was 100%, Lilia's not going anywhere. Like, what makes you think that if Zenith was 100% cured, that Lilia would leave? I feel like some of my Mushoku Mondays just get full of me arguing with Rudeus' mindset. What the hell are you thinking, dude? Zenoba thinks about other stuff. Lilia's not just a maid. Oh my gosh, dude. After a little nudging from Sylphie, Lucy asked for a hug, which he obliged. She didn't even protest him nuzzling her cheek against his, probably because he shaved. The last of the group was Julie, who was standing quietly off to the side. He reminded her that she was his apprentice, not a slave. He wanted her to make herself at home and not be self-conscious about things. Her reply was simply that she wouldn't cause his family trouble. Honestly, he wasn't sure what Julie thought of her circumstances at this point, but he tried his best to be reassuring anyways. Recent events suggest that she wasn't exactly unhappy, at least. One thing was certain, though. Zenoba was important to her. She seemed to treasure her role as his pupil. Rudeus was in the same boat, of course, caring for Zenoba as much as she did. I could just imagine that everybody's waiting, knows everybody's saying goodbye, and over here, Julie's just off to the side there, not trying to get in the way, and he's like, hey, you're not a slave. You are my apprentice. Make yourself at home. Yes, I'll not get in the way. It's like, girl, please. Girl, please. That's cute. I hope we get a little brief chapter while Rudeus is gone, talking about Julie being there and trying to fit in. That would be really cute. I really do hope that we get a little side chapter, this little snippet where it just talks about how, she's constantly off to the side, and then, Sylphie's going by and going, it's okay. You can come to the table. It's okay. You don't always have to stand off the side. Do you want to go do something? You want to do something together? I can totally see Sylphie kind of just stepping in there and help her out. Not Edis, unless Edis is like, hey, you want to learn how to swing a sword? You want me to teach you how to beat up people? Do you want me to teach you how to fight? After asking Leo to protect the family, he and Roxy gave their final goodbyes before walking out the door. Meeting up with Zenoba and Ginger, they had recently sent their luggage to Shiron ahead of them. Their current bags mostly held spare clothes. Roxy's luggage, that Rudeus was carrying, contained perhaps 7 vessels might one day be enshrined as holy idols. He's like, yeah, I got 7 more in here. Golly. They met Cliff and Eloise at the gates of the city. Cliff apologized, wishing to come along with them, but he had a family to consider now, and a place in society to maintain. Rudeus asked that he keep an eye out for his family while he was gone, which he agreed. In return, Cliff wanted Rudeus to look after Zenoba for them. Cliff then turned to Zenoba, claiming that he admired his patriotism. While Zenoba didn't think that he can call himself a patriot, Cliff still carried out a sermon-like speech. It was about a man's obligation to value his life as he would a precious gift. Zenoba listened politely enough, but the smile on his face was obviously strained. Rudeus could see the words passing in one ear and out the other. Cliff is worried about him. They're such the bros. Nearby, Annalise and Roxy stepped aside for a semi-private conversation. Annalise warned Roxy to keep a close eye on Rudeus this time, and pointed out that he was a surprisingly fragile boy when things go badly. Roxy was well aware of this, but the fact they were concerned for him was a bit of a shock to Rudeus. Though, on second thought, it made sense, given that he was voluntarily jumping into a trap. That kind of rash decision-making tended to inspire some concern. If he gets all mopey, you know what to do, right? Push him into a bed and make him forget all about his troubles, just like last time. Well, I don't think that should be necessary. Ryu doesn't usually make the same mistake twice, for one thing. That reminds me. Why don't you take a shot at making baby number 2 while you're at it? You're nursing at the moment, right? That sort of thing can add a bit of excitement in the bed, you know? I'm sure Rudy would find that thrilling, but I'd really rather not. It was nice that Roxy had a high opinion of him, but the fact of the matter was that he regularly repeated the same stupid mistakes. Yeah, I thought the same thing. I thought the same thing when she said that. I'm like, that was technically like the entire subplot to that whole segment. When Rudy and Roxy first slept together, was like he made the same mistake a second time. He'd have to brace himself for the worst this time around. He didn't want Zenobia to die, but if he did, damn it, he'd be useless if he had another nervous breakdown. Annalise went on to help Roxy relax. Every other word out of her mouth was involving sex. She'd probably be a terrible influence on her kid. After goodbyes, the party departed from Shiraya, taking a half-day's walk to reach nearby ruins. From there, they entered Perugius' floating fortress. As promised, they allowed Roxy to accompany them this time. But Armanfi grimaced visibly as he handed her the required magic item, and the other side of the teleportation circle was guarded by both Savaro and 2 other servants. They were clearly on guard against Roxy, absurd as it may sound. Sir Rudeus, I do hope that you appreciate how magnanimous Lord Perugius is to grant this request. No demons are ever tolerated in the fortress under ordinary circumstances. Yes, I know. We're thankful for his kindness, truly. He's super magnanimous. He's ultra magnanimous. While Rudeus expressed his gratitude, Roxy merely bowed her head silently, as she wasn't admitted to speak while they were there. She had agreed to all the rules beforehand, and they should just be there briefly anyhow. Despite this, she was clearly captivated by the majesty and splendor of the place, staring up at the towering central castle like a country bumpkin, and tugging at Rudeus' sleeve in excitement. It was a real pity they couldn't give her a tour, even tell her anything specific about the fortress. Instead, he just rubbed her shoulder affectionately, to which she looked up at him with a slight blush under the brim of her hat. She must have been a little embarrassed by all the gawking that she was doing. Yeah, it's still kind of a bummer. Because she was like super excited about the idea of actually going to the floating fortress back when they went there the first time. As Savaro cleared her throat loudly, ruining the moment, Rudeus considered having his pet cat and dog spread gossip of how petty Perugius' servants were. That'd probably get back to him eventually. As they were taken down to the underground levels, Rudeus couldn't help feel like they were being treated like prisoners, but he knew they were asking a lot of Perugius. Still, he couldn't help but wonder what was such a big deal having a demon there. Though it was pretty obvious that he made the exception due to Zenobia, it really did seem like he didn't want Zenobia to die just as much as they did. Yeah, I think he really does like Zenobia. It's obvious now at this point. Hey, Savaro, what is it? Sir Rudeus, can you tell Perugius I'll come back and thank him properly for this once I get a chance? Very well. Her tone of voice somehow conveyed that's the least that you could do. Nanahoshi was waiting for them at the teleport chamber. The circle was already active, and Rudeus realized that he hadn't told her of their travels at all. She must have caught wind of it somewhere and came to see them off. Hello, Zenobia. I heard you heading back home. Apparently she hadn't figured out what she wanted to say. Instead, she was mumbling and fidgeting.
That's correct, Miss Nanahoshi. The time has come for me to return to my homeland.
An odd expression flashed on her face, both conveying envy and real sadness. God, everybody loves Zenobia. They're just flagging the hell out of his death. If he doesn't die, I'd be super, super surprised. And I'm going to be really angry if he does die.
Fear not. I'm sure the day of your own return will come in time.
Rudeus didn't feel that was kind to say. Nanahoshi couldn't go home now, even though she was desperately wanting to. Well, I hope you're right.
So long as you refuse to give up, you will make it back eventually. Unless your homeland itself should disappear.
That's like almost a nasty comment, but at the same time, such a good comment. Because yes, you can sort of say that is saying, yeah, you'll go home eventually, unless your homeland's gone, which sucks for you. Like the place that she's trying to get back to so badly could eventually get blown up or whatever. But there's also technically a good thing. He's saying basically, you have all the time in the world. Eventually you'll get there. Is basically what it's saying. Unless it disappears, you'll get there. It's sitting there. It's not going nowhere. But I can say that yes, time is continuing over there, and she wants to get back home soon, so she gets back before her family's deceased or something. Zenoba stepped forward, wrapping his arms around Nanahoshi and thumping her gently on the back.
For now, for my own part, I will pray for your success, even if it must be from afar.
Back in Japan, this hug would be qualified as sexual harassment, but Nanahoshi didn't flinch or squirm away. After a moment, she reached up and put her own arms around Zenoba. A tear shined in her eyes. Thank you for all of your help, Prince Zenoba.
No need to call me Prince, or to thank me either. I'll always remember fondly the days I spent with you and Cliff, engrossed in our research. Perhaps I'm the one who owes you a debt of gratitude.
Come to think of it, Zenoba and Cliff had only grown close due to their work with Nanahoshi. The long hours as her assistants had definitely played a part in their bonds. Nanahoshi sniffled. Oh please, you did so much for me. If it weren't for your help, my research never would have gotten this far.
Maybe so, but had we not met, I would never have become acquainted with Lord Perugius. In other words, it's only thanks to you that I can return to my homeland so quickly and easily. Let's call it even, shall we? Haha.
Zenoba released Nanahoshi from his embrace.
Well then, Miss Nanahoshi, we're unlikely to ever meet again, but do take care.
You too. Nanahoshi shot a startled, anxious look at Rudeus. It was hard to guess what she was thinking, maybe questioning these final farewells, wondering if he would return or visit. Rudeus nodded to reassure her. This wouldn't be the last time they would see each other, if he had anything to do with it. Zenoba was just heading home for a little visit. Nothing more.
Well then, Master Rudeus, let's be on our way.
They stepped through the teleportation circle to the other side. Ugh. This is one of those moments where it's like it's a reminder how much Zenoba means to so many people. It's interesting because like it's this long span of time with all these points where we get to see them together, and this sort of puts it into perspective. Yeah, technically when Nanahoshi was giving up, when she gave up on her life because she gave up on the idea of ever going home, who was there? Yes, Rudeus. But who did Rudeus bring into the picture? Zenoba, Cliff, and their research helped her get back on her feet. And in return, yes, Zenoba is saying here, it's because of you that I met Perugius. Because again, yes, who brought them to Perugius? Nanahoshi. It was in to repay the whole thing with them helping. It's like he's literally saying, but you helped me find Perugius. Well, yeah, but that was to thank you for helping me with the research. Like it's to help. They've been together for so long, and they've been working together on all these projects for so long. They mean so much to each other. It's so interesting to see Nanahoshi get so emotional. Nanahoshi is shedding a tear for Zenoba. He means so much to her. Like, she doesn't want to see him go. And there is a moment here where she looks to Rudeus as if, like, she's asking, wait, she's crying, so I think that she is technically sending him off to his death. She believes that. And yes, technically she probably talked to Perugius, who's probably upset right now, like, he's going to his death. He probably went to Nanahoshi and said, well, Perugius told Silvaro to get the teleportation ready, which Silvaro probably went to Nanahoshi and told Nanahoshi to set that up. So she could be tearing up because she doesn't think that he's going to come visit. He's no longer going to be right there, which is, yes, where she's at. When she's not in a floating fortress, she's back at the university. And so she's going to be spending time with Zenoba. But him going back home, she probably figures that he's not coming back. So that's probably why she's looking to Rudeus and going, wait, I thought I was just saying goodbye because he's not going to be nearby and it's going to be a long time before I see him again. Like, temporary, long-time farewells. It sounds like he's dying. What's going on? So it makes sense that she's suddenly like, wait, this isn't right. So either way, it's like, no matter what, just seeing, without in mind that she's sending him off to his death, just the fact that he's going to be going back home and not going to be nearby anymore. She's upset. Zenoba means so much to everybody. Cliff, Elise, Nanahoshi, Perugius, his entire family. It's like, it hurts. It hurts so much. And yes, Julie, that hug though, that just shows how, that is so weird again, Nanahoshi being somebody from Japan. It's a joke and it kind of sucks to be there. But that technically is true. Nanahoshi's Japanese. From a society that embraced like that would be like, wait, what are you touching me for? Like, they're so like non-touchy, especially in public. And Zenoba just goes up there and hug. Just can't. And the fact that Zenoba hugged her, it's like there's so many like, oh my gosh, these moments. This segment hurt. This segment hurts so much. They found themselves in a crumbling building, typical to most teleportation ruins. It was hidden in a forest near the eastern border of Shiron. It would take them 5 days of travel to reach the capital. Roxy let out a small sigh, free from the vow of silence. These teleportation circles never get less interesting to me. They're such fascinating pieces of work. I guess I kind of got used to them by now. You know, if I can learn more about their design, I think I might be able to create one myself. Wait, really? You want to try? Roxy shook her head. No. I think the reason that Perugius won't let demons in the castle is to prevent our kind from learning the secrets of teleportation magic. It would make us dangerous opponents when Laplace is reborn, I suppose. He'd likely have me killed if I made progress. Rudeus even agrees. It sounds plausible. Personally, Rudeus didn't think that was the main reason for the rule, but it was probably a factor. He had to imagine that Laplace himself knew about the teleportation, though. It struck him a little pointless. Yeah, it's like, I can agree. I would probably more go for what he's saying there. It's probably like not the main reason, but it's probably a factor. If he's allowing him up there and putting all those restrictions, he's literally letting her go to the thing that would be the thing that they're not allowed to see. She walked on it. And again, she's now at one. So if that was the problem, Perugius would say no. Like, there would be no reason. He would not allow it. Maybe it's just like going there and not touching anything, getting her through there quickly. That might be the case, but yeah, I could see it being one thing. Essentially, if you think about it, the floating fortress is his domain, and it's his battle station. So the less that they see what's up there for invasion purposes, knowing how the layout is, seeing what kind of techniques and tools that he has at his disposal up there, that could all be factors that add up. But again, my mindset's kind of going more towards what thing that she would not see by going up there. The murals. That's the only thing I can see. So what if the murals has information that he doesn't want them to see? But why would he let Rudeus or anybody else see it that could technically reproduce it? Why would he teach Nanahoshi how to create teleportation circles and send her back? Why would he allow Orsted to be alive who can create circles? Perugius is not the only one that has technology or knowledge of circles. So I don't know. It's interesting. It's just more interesting that she actually gave her theory.
Enough chit-chat. Let's get going. We need to collect our provisions and equipment, first of all.
Following his lead, they left the ruins and made their way to a small cabin in the forest that held most of their luggage. Soon enough, they were on the road to the capital. After several days on the road, they arrived at the capital city of Latakia. Passing through the gates, Zenoba was visibly moved by the familiar sights. Rudeus could feel a small twinge of nostalgia himself. It had been many years since he last visited, but it hadn't changed much. The streets were brimming with adventurers to challenge the local labyrinths. On closer look, Rudeus was picking up on subtle differences. The people seemed a bit on edge. The streets weren't as clean, and some of the adventurers looked more like thugs.
More mercenaries out and about than there used to be, I must say. But I suppose that's not surprising, with war on the horizon.
He almost sounded pleased about it, but Rudeus couldn't understand why. He didn't seem like he was put on a brave front. Sounds like you're in a good mood, Zenoba.
But of course, Master Rudeus, regardless of the circumstances, the thought of war is always thrilling.
You think?
Indeed, any red-blooded man would surely feel the same.
That's so weird. Rudeus wasn't about to argue his point, but he had no idea what Zenoba was talking about. Were these the same kind of thrills you got when you looked at a giant robot? Yeah, I don't understand this. Again, another case where I don't understand. I haven't seen any indication that Zenoba would be excited about war. It sort of makes me think that Zenoba himself is sort of psyching himself up for what's to come. But there's a side of me that kind of wonders if it's just an aspect of being a blessed child, or at least a blessed child of his type, that having that strength that he has sort of allows him to be a little bit more reckless without the fear of injury. Maybe those usual flags and warnings that your mind gives you of danger is sort of gone. Is he being reckless because of his strength, basically? Or again, is he trying to put on a front? Rudeus doesn't think that he's putting on a front. In any case, they made their way to the inn, where Ginger had reserved a room for them. The plan was to spend the night, change, and present themselves at the castle. There, they would report Zenoba's return and request an audience with the king. So they didn't cross the border. They were expecting some scrutiny from the guards. But they had an excuse prepared. Once at the inn, Ginger immediately went to take her leave to gather info. Zenoba raised an objection, claiming a knight of Shiron should announce her return at the palace alongside him. But she felt something was off in the city. Being his personal bodyguard, first and foremost, she wanted to investigate. That's a very odd thing right there. Because by all accounts so far, they've confirmed there's a war coming, that Pax is the king, he's taken over, but she still feels like she has the necessity to go out and investigate because she wants to, I guess, make sure that she says something feels off about the city. And as first and foremost, being his personal bodyguard, she has to investigate to make sure things are safe. It's weird. And that's sort of in case that she has to look into something and not be there with him when he actually presents himself. But it could be that she's not going to get any rest, and she needs rest before she does that. But it's already kind of flagging that she's sensing something else being afoot in the town, not necessarily with Pax. She's seeing something off about the city, which my assumption would be probably maybe the King Dragon realm is already kind of implanting themselves in the city, ready to take over while they're fighting. After he accepted this, Ginger saluted and took her leave, giving an indication to Rudeus to take care of Zenobia. Everything was going off without a hitch, but things would get more interesting from here on. Zenobia planned to present themselves to Pax together. Hopefully the audience would give them hints to what the man god was trying to accomplish. There was a possibility the death god would try to murder Rudeus on the spot. In that scenario, Rudeus would flee the castle with Zenobia in tow. Roxy would be waiting outside to support their retreat from the city. Rudeus would equip his magic armor there and then decide to fight or flee. He'd follow Orsted's advice to the letter and keep distance from the death god if he had to fight. From the sound of things, that fancy enthralling blade technique wouldn't be much use while blasting with a Gatling gun from half a mile away. Yeah, that technically makes sense, unless he can use it from that distance and pull Rudeus in. Yeah, if there's a distance limit, then just keeping long range and just blasting him, that seems easy enough. If they didn't find themselves fighting tomorrow, they'd probably be sent out on the battlefield. He had no idea what war against this country to the north would look like, and apart from getting through with it in one piece, Rudeus needed to find a way to convince Zenobia to not stay there. He wasn't sure if Zenobia would reconsider if Pax blatantly attempted to assassinate him. In the end, he would just have to wait until after the audience to figure it out. Yeah, he's playing a lot of scenarios in his head, and it's like, I just had to figure it out when we get there. It's the what ifs that don't really do anything. It's unfortunate. Honestly, Rudeus wasn't into striding into a trap. He actually preferred blasting the entire castle away with Pax in it. But Orsted ordered him to spare the king. Yeah, like just pull a Orsted on him. Just drop a nuke on the entire kingdom. Even if he hadn't, Zenobia would never forgive him. The castle was hardly a symbol of Shiron or anything, but destroying it would definitely send a shockwave through the kingdom. The guys in the north would pour across the border as soon as they heard the news. The simplest option wasn't realistic here, and nothing but uncertainty lay ahead. He wanted to sigh just thinking about it. For the moment, he had to stay focused on getting through this audience. One way or another, it would at least give him something to work with. Rudy, Roxy tapped Rudeus' shoulder, snapping him out of reverie. You're all tensed up, you know. Oh, really? Really? Try to let your body relax a little bit, okay? I know you've got to stay alert right now, but you won't be much good in an emergency if all of your muscles are too stiff to move. She emphasizes her point by massaging his shoulders. Her hands were small, but surprisingly strong. He sat there and let himself enjoy it for a while. She was right, of course. He had to stay loose and flexible. He had to keep himself pointing the right direction so he can go with the flow. At the end of the day, it would be enough to get Zenobia and Roxy out alive. Ideally, Ginger and himself would make it out in one piece too. That was the bare minimum goal. Nothing too complicated. Thanks, Roxy. You really worked out the knots there. Looking back at Roxy, she looked down with affection in her sleepy-looking eyes. Oh, I don't know about that. If you were really relaxed, you would have said something utterly ridiculous by now. Like what? Well, let's see. Maybe, thanks, Roxy. Am I massaging this little buddy down here next? You'd also be pulling down your pants. That goes without saying. Hey, I only say that kind of stuff in privacy of our home. Ah, yes, you do behave like an animal in that house, don't you? She smiled, poking his cheek. He felt like his character was being defamed here. Was it such a crime to be horny? He just got done complaining about Elise being horny all the time, and now he's like, well, what? It is kind of one of those funny things where he always criticizes Elise's horniness, and it's like, dude, you're the worst. Come on, you're the worst. Surely everyone says some stupid stuff in the bedroom at night. I'm only kidding, Rudy. Looks like you've relaxed a little more, though. At least. Oh, huh. Yeah, I guess I have. Although a hint of energy lingered in his muscles, he was relaxed, but alert and ready for action. It was a good feeling. All right. I better get to bed, so I'm well rested for the audience tomorrow. Thanks again, Roxy. Anytime. Good night, Rudy. He could do this, one step at a time. Holding these simple thoughts in his mind, he turned in for the night. And that is chapter 3. Golly, this went on way longer than I thought it would, but such a good set of chapters. Again, I think the main key thing in these two chapters is, yes, introducing the possibility of the Death God returning. Randolph is back. He's done cooking meat. He's done trying to make Nanahoshi's food, which is interesting because, again, that did indicate, because Nanahoshi met Randolph, that, yes, Orsted had brought Nanahoshi there at some point. Now, I doubt Orsted himself went in there and met Randolph, but he may have pointed Nanahoshi the direction of him, which that's interesting. Kind of makes you wonder if there was a conversation there, if she just went there and gave him some pointers and moved on. But yeah, learning that Rudeus screwed up by not complimenting his food and helping him raise his business, thus creating his now enemy, possibly, is the sad thing there. But yeah, getting more insight into him, what his technique is, and what makes him special, and technically what makes him weak, to give him a possibility of being the first person that Rudeus takes down that is titled God. But yes, of course, the second half of this whole stuff is just seeing how much everybody loves Zenobia is just truly heartbreaking. Again, with all these sad goodbyes, it upsets me because it makes me believe that Refugian is really setting this up for death. I mean, yes, technically I've talked about flags for characters like Ghislaine with the last ordeal. I kind of was playing into that because you had essentially one big goodbye there. But this is next level. They are real. Now, it could be Refugin really kind of just playing this out because that's what people would do, because they all care for him and they feel like he is going into danger, and he does make it out alive. But with so much emphasis on it, it really does feel like it's building up everybody having their final farewells, and it's not going to turn out good. And that just really bugs me. I don't want that to be the case, because I love Zenoba so much, and it's going to be heartbreaking if something happens to him. Shoot, there's also the possibility of Roxy. Nothing better happened to Roxy, or sorry, Mushoku Monday's going away. Sorry, Mushoku Monday is canceled. Anyways, my predictions. So yeah, they're gonna wake up the next morning and go out. Now, there is a side of me that believes, because Ginger right now is investigating something feeling off in the city, it does make me believe that something's gonna happen before they even get to the throne. But I really do feel like I will admit that I literally have the title up on my screen right here, Chapter 4, King Pax. So it does make me think they're going to see Pax. But there's an indication here that something's going on in the city, and I think that's probably going to be the King Dragon realm being implanted, and then she sees that or something. But yeah, the most likely idea here is that next morning they go off and they go to see Pax. My prediction is that the moment that they see Pax, Pax is going to welcome back in, and he's going to tell Zenoba, hey, it's time for you to do your duty. You're going to help me out. He's going to give off a very brave front, try to make Rudeus and Zenoba feel like he is confident about his position and that he has the strength to take on everything, but he's going to have Zenoba fulfill his goal. Now, the question mark that I really have is it going to immediately go into, let's go to the border? I don't think so. I just don't really necessarily see this turning into a Rudeus goes to the front line. I more think this is probably going to stay isolated within the borders for now. And I think that might be in the idea that while Pax wants Zenoba to go to the front lines and fight, I also think that there's a possibility that the Death God is there for a different purpose than what Pax knows. My current theory is that, yes, like we said before, the King Dragon realm employs the Death God. Brought him into their numbers. The only reason I can see them going, okay, send off one of our most powerful allies to this is because they have the intention of taking over Shiron. But I think there is an element there that somebody told somebody of power, and again, I think it's Geese. I think Geese has connections or something, told somebody, hey, you need to send the Death God over there. For some reason, like to gain power, to gain Shiron, you're going to have to send the Death God. And I think for the reason of and the purpose of sending the Death God there, saying, you will kill Rudeus the moment you see them. So there's a chance that Pax will say, hey, welcome to the place, and go to the battlefield. But I think Death God is going to go, no, I need to kill him. And he's going to jump right into a fight there. Possibly. Now, the other thought process I have is that this time around, even though, yes, the Man God wants Pax not to be in power there, I think he is allowing it to go back into power right now, because what the Man God has set up is that he's not going to keep that power. Essentially, by putting the foundation of the King Dragon realm being involved with Shiron, he can quickly pull the rug out from underneath Pax. Basically telling somebody of some sort of importance in the King Dragon realm, help Pax take over the throne, and then kill him would make sense. Again, it also makes sense to Ginger. That essentially they have implanted their army undercover within the capital city of Shiron, and allowing Pax to take over the leadership so that nobody kind of gets in the way, and then pull that rug out from under him and have literally the King Dragon realm take over the city. And I think that's how they can possibly have Rudeus not necessarily get involved in the war itself. But more simply, this is going to turn into Rudeus, Zenoba, Roxy, all of them fighting to help Pax keep the Kingdom of Shiron. That's where I think it's actually going. It's going to be more of an idea of not so much that Pax came in here, took over the capital, killed everybody, and then he's weakened, so now he needs Zenoba to come in and save him against the forces of the North. But more so that Pax was helped by the King Dragon's realm, who's being manipulated by the Man God. They came in there, took over, and as the King Dragon realm tries to take over at that point, Rudeus and everybody has to stop them. And yes, their biggest threat there is going to be the Death God. So that's my current theory in the direction that's going to go. It's going to be not so much Rudeus and everybody versus the North, but more so Rudeus and them versus the Death God and the King Dragon realm's forces in the Kingdom of Shiron, and saving Pax in the process. And I think that's more genius, the idea of ever getting Zenoba out of there. is that Pax, now with his new allies turning on him, he only has Inoba and Rudeus at that point. And so he's probably going to be very grateful if they do help him keep the kingdom and essentially stop his allies from killing him. Anyhow, I'm going to cut it off there. That, again, is Chapter 3. Hope you guys enjoyed this Mushoku Monday. As always, greatly appreciate you guys' support. Appreciate everybody that dropped by for the premiere. Hey, chat, again, hope you guys have a great rest of your Monday. Before you leave, if you forgot, make sure to hit that like button down below. Greatly appreciate you guys' support, your kind words, sharing this out, telling your friends, all that kind of stuff. It means so much to me. And yes, as per usual, greatly appreciate everybody that supports the channel through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships, all that stuff. I cannot express enough. It means so much to me. So yeah, until the next Mushoku Mondays, as we get into this battle and everything, y'all take care. I don't know if anybody knows the entire video, but yes, last airing of Mushoku Monday, I got stung, and so my hand is like super swollen and itchy.
More mercenaries out on it. There's more mercenary.
I feel like some of my Mushoku Mondays, for all her determination. Why can't I get the determination out?